we're going to need another push to get it done there as well. And so the bill is bill number, Senate Bill 96, and I appreciate your help and support as we first try to get it up on the Senate floor for a vote and then try to get it passed through the House. With that, any questions that you guys have for me? Yes, sir.
I love the phrasing that you use, that it can serve as a buttress, to support what is being done with the American studies, the government and the history there. What other language resonates with people that may have concerns like you faced?
Yeah, the two main points that I make when I talk to people that have concerns about my bill, and to be blunt about it, I've heard people say you're trying to make global citizens not American citizens. Some of these kind of things that are, I think maybe people are believing too much of the spam email that they get from friends and some of that sort of conspiracy theory stuff. But what I've tried to say is, no, we're not trying to create global citizens, we're trying to create globally aware American citizens so that our nation can compete and succeed in the world economically, and so that we can be strong in our national defense. So if you're pro national defense, then you're pro world history, because the intelligence community professionals, many of the people that I used to serve with in the special operations field, are now working for various three-letter intelligence agencies, and they need to have a solid grasp of world culture and world history. The folks that work in our diplomatic corps obviously need to have a strong grasp of world culture, world history, and geography, as well as the leaders within the United States military. So if you're strong national defense, then you're pro world history. And likewise on the economic side, if you want Ohio companies specifically to be able to compete and succeed internationally, you need to have students that are strong on world history, culture, and geography. So that's my message to folks that have concerns, is we're not trying to create global citizens, we're trying to create globally aware American citizens who can help Ohio compete nationally or internationally economically, and who can help our nation remain strong from a national defense standpoint.
Thank you.
Other questions?
Could you speak to the economic impact of this bill, like what effect it would have on the state budget?
This bill would cost $0 and 0 cents to the state budget. Well, other than like the paper that is printed on this has no financial impact to the state, nor is it the dreaded unfunded mandate. It's not that. There are already 3 social studies units required. All we're doing is saying we're setting the standard of, again, if one of those is American-based, then one of those should be world-based, and then the third one should be left as an option. I saw another question. Yeah.
This bill has been delayed for vote a couple of times. Do we have another tentative date for the big push?
It's one of the things that I've learned in my short time in the state Senate is things don't really happen on a particular schedule, and it's a fluid, dynamic environment. I will say that we've gotten it out of so it's more like there's sort of starts and stops, and there's certain things that you got to check off. We've gotten it past the committee, so it's been voted out of the Senate Education Committee. The good news is the committee chairwoman, Senator Peggy Lehner, was one of the co-sponsors of the bill. And oh, by the way, this is a bipartisan effort. I've got Republican and Democrat support on this. So the next step is it's got to go to the Senate floor for a vote of the full Senate. Now, it's in a status right now that we call below the black line, meaning it's been referred out of committee, and it's essentially at the discretion of the Senate President now when it's going to come up for a vote on the Senate floor or not. There are plenty of times where we get to the end of the legislative session every 2 years, and there are bills that were referred out of committee that never get voted on the floor. So at this point, we need to, and I need to continue working with my friend and our Senate President, Keith Faber, to ask him to call this one up for a vote of the full Senate. And so that's where, if we're doing advocacy right now to members of the Senate, it's asking your senator to have the president bring this one up for a vote. Yes, sir, all the way in the back.
What's your chance of like the college program
I think I heard you say, you know, what are the chances in the House, and then getting it signed by the governor. I've learned not to try to handicap what the House does. It can be a mystery to me sometimes, but I think that if we can get it past the Senate, that we've got a darn good chance of getting it through the House. I think there are some folks over there that are misinformed or not fully informed yet about it, and it'll be our jobs to inform them. Again, there are some folks that are from the House that I've heard some of that. You know, what is this? You're trying to focus on world history. We need to focus on American history. Some of that, as though it's like a binary decision. You either do American history or world history, and I've been just one by one working on explaining it to them. But my focus is to get it voted out of the Senate, and then we'll start fighting that fight in the House. You know, I haven't specifically asked the governor yet about whether he would sign this if it came through the House and the Senate. But I can say on something like this, my experience is if it passes both chambers, it's very likely that the governor would sign it. I don't anticipate that the administration has a strong opinion about it. I will say that from my experience, when something's moving through the committee process, there's a staff of folks that work for the governor that sort of keep track of that. I've not had any of them reach out to me that express concern about it. But you know, I will add it to the list of things to talk to the administration about, just to make sure that they're fine with it. But I don't anticipate a problem there. Yes, sir.
Would it be helpful if many people wrote emails or letters to the Senate President to say, hey, can you get this bill more fast-tracked?
Yeah, the question is, would it be helpful to advocate to the Senate President? And you specifically mentioned emails and letters. Just a bit about advocacy, and this is something that I have learned, and I try to explain it to friends whenever I can. There's sort of a hierarchy of like how the best way is to contact an elected official. I know some of you have served as elected officials, and I'm sure you may echo this. We get inundated in email and phone calls. Emails and phone calls are the worst way to contact somebody in the legislature, as far as I'm concerned. I get a couple hundred emails a week, and I wish I could personally read and respond to them all, but it just never happens. Now, personal contact is really the best advocacy, and it's not as hard as you think. A lot of people think that it's difficult. I mean, by design, we each represent a compact geographical part of the state, and so you should be able to personally contact your state legislator. At least that's how it's supposed to work. And if you have a relationship with your state senator, then you know, just make the phone call or run into them at the Little League game, or you know, or her, and that's, you know, that's the best way. For me, social media is a great way. It's not great for everybody, but for me, it's a great way to communicate. But barring that, you know, a visit to the office at the State House, a letter. I would make email the last choice personally. I think a good old-fashioned snail mail letter still gets my attention a lot faster than an email does, just because I get such an inundation of email. But so that's a sort of tactical question about how to advocate. I would encourage certainly the members of the group here that are from Senator Faber's district to contact him directly. I think that it's never a bad thing to contact the president directly, but also your own state senator. And I've had this with other bills where there's something that's passed out of committee and sitting below the floor, and I'll get a lot of phone calls and emails and personal contacts or whatever else that'll say, get the Senate president to bring this up for a vote. And so then I know my constituents are asking me to get that done. And so it's still the, you know, the most direct route is to go right to your state senator on that. So thank you. Other questions? I do know that there was a couple folks that asked me to sign their form that are working on college credit. I'm going to jet right after this, so if you want to just meet me, say back here by this door, I'll put my John Hancock on your piece of paper, and then I'll be out of here. So thank you so much for the chance to join you, and thank you for your advocacy.
All right, so I'm going to embarrass Brad Maguth from asking him to come up here too. So we have a few gifts for Dr. Maguth and Senator Larose. And I've been to Senator Larose's office 2 or 3 times now, and he has little doodads from around the state, from his district, but had the idea that he might need a paperweight that looks like the world to help remind him that we're going to be pushing forward as an organization, and we really appreciate his efforts. We're also giving one to Brad because he's spearheaded the Save World History in Ohio campaign.